right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to bring to order the Select Board meeting, Middleton, Mass, for Tuesday, November 5th, 2024, and remind you that this meeting is being recorded audio and visually. Without further ado, we'll move on to item number 1, which is Town Business Warrant number 2509 and Facilities Project 47. Mr. Solzback, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you have warrant 2509 dated October 31st, 2024 on the payroll side of things totaling in at $884,000. Just a call out there about $18,000 or so of overtime for the fire department. They haven't really gotten in too deeply into the brush fire yet at that point. So it's something worth keeping an eye on. And then also $0 on the snow line. It's going to be in, I've heard, maybe the low 80s tomorrow, so we can keep that running for some time. On the bills payable side of things, just to call out a couple items, $2,200 initiative to shred at Memorial Hall. We're trying to get ahead of things. We don't want to wait until the day to move to get rid of items that we no longer statutorily have to hold. So thank you to Jackie for coordinating that. For the DPW, just end of season expenses, end of construction season, so $130,000 for paving and striping and $96,000 for the Boston Street sidewalk, which Chair Cassiotis can tell you all about because he's been spending a lot of time out there. And then also facilities project warrant FP 47, totaling in at $2.2 million, a bulk of which is construction fees, a little under $60,000 is some soft administrative costs, and we'll dig a little bit more into a project update later in the meeting this evening.
I have a question, Justin. The Boston Street sidewalk, that was done with a grant, right? So is that just money in and money out?
Yep, it's a reimbursement style grant. Correct.
Anything else?
That is it, thank you.
Okay.
Move to accept warrant 2509 and facilities projects, warrant 47 is presented.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, passes unanimously. Thank you. Also, we have the open session minutes from October 22nd and executive session from the same date.
Mr. Chair, if I could just note, we haven't distributed the
Oh,
executive
I'm
session, so
sorry.
we're gonna pass that on to your next agenda. Our
Very good.
apologies.
Duly noted. We will pass to the next meeting for the minutes for those dates that I mentioned. Next, we'll do the town administrator updates and
No,
reports.
The regular minutes.
Yeah, the
will do.
regular.
Open
Open are
executive.
fine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
so I'll move to approve the open session minutes of October 22nd as presented.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Pass unanimously. Excuse me on that. Okay, Justin, please, town administrator updates and reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are presently experiencing day 10 of the 2024 brush fire response, so I just wanted to take a moment to thank our team at the Middleton Fire Department under the leadership of Chief Lacoste, and additionally a thank you to our state and federal partners as well as local departments. I think a lot of people around town have seen 20 or more different communities driving around in one direction or another as they try to chase these issues around town. So a huge thank you also to the residents who have given so generously to the department as a show of thank you. It's certainly appreciated. Due to ongoing drought conditions, in the spirit of that, combined with extreme fire risk, the Middleton Fire Department has issued a temporary ban on the outdoor use of open flame and other ignition sources until further notice. So please be advised of that. It's posted on the town website and social media. That includes fire pits, chimeneas, cooking, so grills, everything across the board. We are seeing early indicators that student enrollment will be up for both Masco and Essex Tech, so we don't have a firm budgetary figure at this point in time, but we are preparing for an increase. So once we have those firm figures, we'll pass them along.
Are you saying overall enrollment increase or the shift for Middleton increase?
Overall, so total between the communities and Middleton specifically as well. As a reminder, we'll be joined by the engineers at TEC in this room for a citizens traffic forum tomorrow night from 6 to 7 p.m. So if people are able to come out, we're going to talk about traffic at large in the community, but for the most part, try to focus on 114 and specifically the grant that was received for the intersection of 62 and 114, some of the data behind that, what supported that, and what some of the recommended changes are, just to get input from the community on that. We don't want to do that in a vacuum. I have completed my MC PPO renewal, that's for public purchasing, so that extends my designation through December of 2027, so we're in the clear on that. The Masco's teachers negotiations have been successful, and we've reached tentative agreement on that item. They still have to ratify the vote on the union side, so once we have some stronger figures to share publicly, we'll make sure we distribute those. Citizens petition was received on Friday, November 1st for the review of the MBTA communities zoning at the December 12th special. Nearly 250 signatures have been certified at this time. As a reminder, the planning board will be holding a public hearing on Wednesday, November 13th at 7 p.m. to discuss the proposed ADU bylaw and MBTA communities. And then in addition, the planning board will be holding a second public hearing triggered by the citizens petition to be held at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, November 20th to specifically discuss the MBTA community's citizen petition. And as a reminder, special town meeting will take place on the 12th of December at 7 p.m. at the Howe Manning School. And lastly, today is election day, obviously, so a huge thank you to our poll workers, anybody involved with elections, our town clerk, assistant town clerk. It's a pretty well-oiled machine down there. I popped down maybe a half hour ago, so thank you to all of them. And that's everything for now.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
On the ADU, at the joint meeting of the planning board and ZBA, I think last Wednesday or Thursday, they, did I understand Jay Tellerman correctly that communities can limit one to one ADU, and with that limitation, an additional ADU requires a variance instead of a special permit as stated in the law?
Excuse me, your understanding is correct. And so coming out of that joint meeting with the ZBA and the planning board, I had a meeting with Scott Fitzpatrick, our building commissioner, and Jay Tallerman, legal counsel, and the three of us took our notes from that meeting to incorporate the changes recommended between those two bodies. And so an updated draft either went up today or will be going out shortly that highlights in yellow the changes and then strike through any deletions.
By the end of tonight.
By the end of tonight.
It's, so on the 13th, the planning board is doing the ADU public hearing,
Mm-hmm.
and then on the 20th, the MBTA public hearing.
That is correct. So they'll be doing a bulk of the ADU on the first night. The MBTA piece was advertised for the 13th, and so I think they'll touch on it briefly, but encourage folks in attendance to steer their attention to the 20th, where I think they'll really get into the weeds on the issue.
Okay, anyone else? All right, thank you, Justin.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, item number 2 is the point in the night we reserve for public comment. I'll look in the crowd and see if we have anyone here tonight for public comment. No, we do not. All right. So with that, we'll move on through item number 3, which is the Middleton Municipal Campus updates, project updates from our town administrator, Justin Zulzbach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I distributed to the board earlier this week or late last week a monthly project update report from our OPM for the month of October that included some really useful information relative to the project, some good financial pieces as well. So just as fact, out of the entire budget of the project, we've to date spent down about $12.5 million. That represents roughly 16.5% of the total project budget, which was just a hair over $60 million for the construction side of things. So one element that we're also keeping a close eye on is cash flow. We have a large sum of money already in hand, and then whether or not we'll have to go back to actually borrow that other $10 million that we received generously from the people of Middleton roughly this time last year. So spending for the project will ramp up pretty consistently right up until December of 2025. It will reach its peak, at which point then you'll see it kind of go down as we go through the finishing phase and look to move people into the building. Anybody driving by at present, really good sunset tonight, but you can see that they got, the steel is up, they got all the trusses in place on the public safety building. They've started sheathing with plywood on the outside, closing in the structure, lagging a little bit behind for the town hall building in the rear there, but the expectation and anticipation is that both buildings will be more or less weather tight going into the winter so that they can do work on the interior. That's the goal, so they're making really good progress there.
The weather has been on their side.
Yeah, it's been rough for the folks fighting the brush fires, but for the sake of building the project, it's
Right.
has been going well, so.
And any portion of that 10 million that will be initially needed will be acquired through bands, and then when the project is completed, it'll get bonded with whatever amount is necessary.
Lumping it in with everything else, correct. And so the hope is to not even have to go out for that full 10 million. And right now we're on track. I don't want to offer a number at this point, but we will be under, so.
Okay, all right, thank you, Justin. Boy, you got a few tonight. Moving on to item number 4, it'll be our department head update that we've been doing right along each meeting, and tonight, the update is from the Office of the Town Administration.
So really quickly, and most of you had the opportunity to meet her, but also I guess for the community as well, we wanted to welcome Chantel Bambury, who's our new Administrative Services Coordinator. A friendly new face in the office and the first face up in the town administration office when people visit Memorial Hall. So that desk sat vacant for some period of time since just before May. So I also just real quick want to thank Jackie for helping pick up the slack there as well. But we made it through successfully. So a big welcome to Chantel, and I don't know if you'd like to introduce yourself or if the board has any questions or.
Hi, I'm Chantel Bambury. I'm on week 4 right now, so learning from Justin and Jackie, and everything's been going great so far. I had been over at a company in the Cumming Center previously for a couple of years and just transitioned over here, so looking forward to it. I live in Middleton myself, so I'm excited to be more involved with the community and learn more about everything that's going on. So thank you, very welcome.
Welcome.
Well, thank you.
Well, glad to have you.
Welcome.
We do hear good things, Chantel.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you.
All right. I guess that's good enough, so welcome aboard.
Thanks so much.
How much did I know I read the resume, how much is your last position you had? Could you just talk about that a little bit, how it helped you, prepare
Sure.
yourself for?
Yeah, sure. So my last position, I was actually an office manager. So I was doing some similar items to things that I'm doing right now, but I was there for almost 2 years. Prior to that, I worked in health benefit administration for 8 years. So that's really, I think, more so my experience comes in from that. I was an account manager at Sentinel Benefits, and I had been there for quite a while. So I'm bringing a lot of my HR side of things into working with Jackie. That's really where a lot of I did a lot with payroll, a lot with benefit management. I'm gonna help, we were already talking about getting involved more with the benefit fairs and things like that, and helping with the employees, just learning more about it, because I know a lot about it. So I'm able to bring quite a few things from that job, I would say, a little bit more so
Right.
into this
That's
role.
great,
Yeah.
Great, yeah.
very good, thank you very much,
Yeah,
Chantel.
absolutely, thank you guys.
All right, so with that then, we're gonna move on to item number 5, which is a vote on a transfer of manager to Alexander Montalto for the clubhouse at 216-220 South Main Street for all alcoholic beverage license. And do we have a gentleman here tonight? Okay. Why don't you step right up, identify who you are, and
I'm Alex Montalto. I'm the new general manager there at the clubhouse, and I don't know what else you need from me.
experience have you had with?
So I've been a realtor before this. I've been working at restaurants as a waiter, and just in that industry for a while now. Just started now a few months ago, and just learning everything in the clubhouse, and everything's going good so far.
Did the position just become vacant?
Yeah, like, yeah, I don't know exactly when, but it just recently became vacant.
Well, then, if there's no other questions or discussion, I'll take a motion if there's one.
So I'll move to approve the transfer of manager for the clubhouse to Alexander Montalto.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second, or any further discussion or questions? No? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Passed unanimously? All right, Alex? All right. Run a tight ship down there for us, all right? Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have number 6 is the Liberty Street Water Main Project Contract Award. Justin, I believe that'll be you, or?
That is correct, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, for this one, I'm gonna break it down into 2 items. So on the engineer and design side of things, you have a contract amendment in your packet from Weston and Sampson. Specifically on page 3 of that document, they break down some of the expenses they had already accounted for. So the design of the water main improvements, wetland permitting services, project bidding and award services, construction administration services, and resident representative services. What we're adding here in the amendment, in a total of $94,000, is a 6th and 7th element, which would be construction administration services and additional resident representation services. So effectively what that means is over the course of actually installing this pipe for the purposes of water looping, they're gonna have people out in the field confirming the work is done accurately and the materials are accurate, and everything's built out to spec, something that we don't have capacity and organization to do. So that's piece 1. Piece 2 is the low bid itself, which the engineering firm is still kind of crunching the numbers on. They've confirmed that we'll be within budget, and I will be able to bring that forward to a future select board meeting for full review. However, given the timing of the contract, we wanted to go forward and move forward with an intent to intent to award. So my request this evening is if the board can approve the amendment for Weston and Sampson, and also authorize me to move forward with an intent to award to the low bidder, providing it's within budget, and I'll bring that forward at a future meeting.
Could you refresh my memory again on how where we obtained the funding?
This would be ARPA funded, with the remainder coming from the water enterprise.
Yeah, something, thank you.
Wasn't there what we had originally thought we were gonna be budgeting for this, we actually made some changes to it?
We had pulled back a little bit because we weren't super confident where the numbers were going to land.
Yeah.
And so for this one, I don't have a concrete number yet, but early indicators are it's gonna be a little bit over what we're anticipating, but we can still cover it within ARPA.
Yeah. Okay.
So with the end of the year coming, the second piece of that puzzle is sitting down with Finance Director Wood and just one last time going over the ARPA expenditures, seeing what we actually spent versus what we held, and kind of reconciling that with the board and having you all vote on it just to close ARPA out.
Okay.
So Justin, I'm looking at the consulting fee contract, and I see number 5, resident representative services, and then I see in the amendment, resident representative services, both for a similar number.
Yep, so it's additional, so it's above and beyond what they anticipated in the original contract. I can have them break that down further though.
Yeah, but I think under the original contract, it was for Essex and DeBush. I think for item number 7, it's specifically for Liberty Street.
Tying in Liberty.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
But are we yet to assign contract for the Liberty Street project?
No, so part of, we're going about this in a little bit of a non-traditional way, partly because we have to have ARPA funding committed to be spent by the end of the calendar year.
Okay.
And so we're kind of hustling to get these out to bid to commit to a contract. This actual work is not going to be done until next spring. But as long as we have it contracted, we're good to expend the funds.
No, have we reached out to everybody on Liberty Street who the water line's going to pass that might be unwell, to give them the opportunity to hook up?
So that's going to be part of, the consulting fee with Weston and Sampson is doing that.
With the resident representative.
Doing the community outreach and helping those people, coordinate hookups and things like
And
that.
there'll be a cost to the residents, obviously, if they wanna.
Correct.
Now, this will all be stubbed to each side of the road in front of each residence, whether or not they choose to connect.
To the extent practical, just so we're not ripping up the road in the future. Yeah.
So, one of the questions is, if there's a decision to not connect now, and they decide to connect in the future, that would require a street opening, is there some type of incentive or benefit to connect now for the individual rather than in the future? Or is there I wanna say penalty, but is there a greater cost if they connect in the future?
Yeah, I'm not sure of that, but I'll see maybe what other communities do, but I get what you're saying, is it might be beneficial for us to incentivize people to do it now, rather than 3 years from now deciding, hey, now's a good time to do it, so I'll look into that too.
As I recall, we have, a water connection fee.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's the permitting fee.
And do you know offhand what that is? Because I seem to remember it was quite a substantial.
It is, yeah.
It's at least $1,000.
I thought it was
$2,000,
1,200, I thought it was 1,200 actually.
Or 50, so, maybe if it's, the incentive is, a sort of a discount on that fee if they hook up now, as opposed to hooking up later when they have to pay the full fee.
I'll look into that and bring it back to the board.
If someone chooses to hook up, would they get their own private contractor to bring the line out to the new line, or would they use the contractor that's putting the line in?
I think it would have to be a private contractor, I don't think
We're not gonna supply.
our contractor's not gonna.
Okay,
cross-
so they would hire their own
Yeah.
contractor to hook into that line, okay.
And that would be two separate costs. There would be the
Mhm.
tie-in to the water, and
And
then
And
the- whatever the
connection fee,
distance is
and
to the home.
And then the cost of the contractor, yeah.
Okay.
Can we, I don't want to go too long on this, can we also expect that there might be some interruption or change in service with existing homes? I'm wondering how we're gonna, are we just gonna field all of that? I mean, I know specifically for people that have, very intermittent interruptions in pressure past in Vera, down in the neighborhood there, and
Same thing in the top
Stanley.
of Ogden.
Okay, and then I'm sure it may, I don't know why, but it just, how are we gonna, that could burden our water, department.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're just gonna be ready with that, cause I know people, and I've witnessed, pressure, substantial pressure differences in some of those homes, so.
We'll make sure we do public outreach in advance, not so much now, but when we get closer to the construction season. And
Yeah.
I have in fact had a conversation earlier this evening with a resident who lives nearby, talking about potential for water discoloration and other things like that. So we'll make sure we get that out so people aren't caught off guard.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks.
Because I'm sure we'll be hearing from similar people that I hear from. Okay, thanks, Justin. That makes
So
sense.
we need to vote.
Yep.
Motion for the amendment and then a motion to authorize me, to award or provide an intent to award, providing it's within budget.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the amendment in the total of $94,068 as provided in the memorandum in the agreement for engineering services between Town of Middleton and Weston and Sampson Engineers. Second, I also move that we provide the authority to the town administrator to execute that contract.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Passed unanimously.
Sorry, who was the second?
Deb?
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, all right. Item 6 now, and item number 7, which is a policy review for patient anti-discrimination policy of the Middleton Fire Department, which we have here in our packet.
And I will hand that one off to ATA Bresnahan.
Thank you.
Good evening. So this policy that is in your packet is actually being given to us based on federal guidance. So we are receiving a number of federal grants, this one in particular for the fire department. last year, and Chief Lacoste provided it to me because it required us to do a civil rights audit of our policies and procedures. So we have all of the anti-discrimination language that is required and appropriate for our employee handbook, but we did not specifically call out in the circumstance of patients, clients, people that come into our different buildings and facilities, and that we don't discriminate against them. It's been our standing practice and policy, but we just need to recodify it in a way that meets with the requirements so that we remain eligible for those federal grants. So in your packet tonight, I've put together a draft that meets those compliance requirements and directs folks on how to file a complaint with the town or the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Office for Civil Rights, if they feel this they have a violation on their hands. This policy won't just support the fire department's grants. We recently are looking into a grant for the Council on Aging that's also federal money. So basically any federal money coming to us through the state or the federal government directly requires us to have this policy in place. Again, it's just codifying something that we've already been doing.
So this is more than just the fire department.
This eventually will become townwide. But it is important to recognize that it is also for the Middleton Fire Department and particularly their patient clientele for their specific grant.
Would this be required to be handed to each patient or not?
No, we just have to have it on our books,
Okay.
and then there's some compliance paperwork that myself and the chief will put together and submit every year.
So will we have to take a similar vote for any other department that is required to enact such a policy, or are we taking a townwide vote on this? This is where I'm confused.
No, that's a great point. So when it was added to the agenda, it was specific to the fire department, but I've drafted the policy so that it's generic to the entire
That's why I was
town.
yeah.
So it's a great question. Please just approve it townwide, because it's true townwide, and that way we're compliant with all federal grants for all of our different departments.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve policy as described in the attachment for federal civil rights as pursuant to Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of '64, Section 504 of the Rehab Act, Title IX of Education Amendments of '72, the Age Discrimination Act of 1975, and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security Regulations, CFR Part 19.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any further discussion or question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Number 7 will be any updates and announcements that anyone has or cares to share.
Thanks to all that came out to the Pumpkin Festival, the people that volunteered, the people that enjoyed the rides. It was a beautiful evening and it was a lot of fun.
It was. I guess I'll just reiterate what Justin said earlier, and from, the chief to, the weather's nice, probably nice to get out there on the weekend and do some yard work, but please don't burn. Those people up there in that neighborhood are already suffering enough with all the smoke, and we don't need that happening anywhere else in town, obviously. So please, no burning until further notice, outdoor burning until further notice. Okay, anything else? Nothing? All right, then,
Mr. Chairman, I move
take
that
it,
we enter executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease of value of real estate, and if you declare that such an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. This is regarding South Main Street parcel 002900000071, and we will not be returning to open session.
I'll second that.
okay, motion and second. If I get asked Deb for a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Brian?
Yes.
Costa?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yep.
And I am a yes.
Okay, well, passed unanimously, so we will now leave open session, entering executive session, and as a note, we will not be returning to open session.